Yeah, everybody, it is Key Time coming back with another one to talk about week 17 of the NFL season. The first game we had was the New York Jets and Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, I expected them to win this game by that much, by the score of 37-20. Joe Flacco had over 300 yards and David Njoku had over 100 yards receiving. So Cleveland, they won the last 5 games, and their defense is the top defense in the NFL. So more than likely in the playoffs they'll have to go on the road. But when you got a top defense and a good offense, you could beat anybody anywhere. So that's where I'm at with the Cleveland Browns. The next game I want to talk about is the Detroit Lions and Dallas Cowboys. This game right here had a lot of controversy at the end of the game. Was Detroit's men lined up correctly? Was it 68 or 70? That's what I've been hearing throughout the last couple of days. Mainly, number 70, they said that number 70 was supposed to be lined up, but he right near the center. He on the right side of the center. 68, he all the way at the end of the line, and when he got the ball, when Jared Goff threw 68 the ball, it was a 2-point conversion, but I had already knew that something was up because I heard the crowd in the background, and then when I saw the flag come up, I knew that the Lions had did something wrong. So what the coach should have did was tell them that 2 players was gonna be eligible, not just one. And then I heard something about he should have said 3 players was eligible, but the only 2 numbers I was aware of was 68 and 70. Both of them players failed to report, and that's why Detroit lost the game. As far as Dallas, this was a grit and grimy game, a nip and tuck game, and this was one of the games that you needed to win. So, and even though Philadelphia lost yesterday, so the NFC East is still up for grabs. I'm going to get to that later on in my video. Now, the next game we going to talk about is the New England Patriots and Buffalo Bills. I'm not going to get too much into this game. Not many playoff implications on the line for the New England Patriots, but Buffalo, the last 2 months, they've been on a 4-game winning streak after starting off the season 6-6. And those teams the last team that they lost to was the Philadelphia Eagles. And you know where the Philadelphia Eagles is now. Buffalo, coming into next week's game, they're on Sunday Night Football. It's a winner take all. Miami Dolphins, Buffalo Bills. I'm going to give y'all my prediction later on in the week about that game. But that is going to be a good game. Winner take all. Now, from what Buffalo did yesterday, Buffalo played a good game. And like I said, division games are unpredictable. Division games are much closer than we all predict. Buffalo just won by 6 yesterday. And Buffalo really didn't do anything like as far as offensive creativity, throwing trick plays out there. They ain't do none of that. They just ran the ball. Ran over that New England Patriots defense for 200 let me see that to get my exact numbers. Over 200 yards. Now we already know. Now from what I'm hearing, Bill Belichick, he gonna leave New England and either go to the Commanders or the Chargers. Those are the only two teams that are in his. Those are the only two teams that are interested in him. If he go to either one of them, that'll be great because they need a coach like Bill Belichick. But for the Patriots, they just getting ready for the draft that's in April. Yesterday they lost. They ain't had no chance yesterday anyway. So New England 4-12, first losing season in about 20 years. So that's all. Then the next game I want to talk about is the Atlanta Falcons and Chicago Bears. This game right here, I was surprised that this game had playoff implications because Atlanta and Chicago still have a chance at making the playoffs. I thought that Chicago was left for dead about a month and a half ago. I thought Atlanta was left for dead about a month and a half ago. But this goes to show everybody who watches football, it's not how hot you can get in September and October. It's about how hot you can get in December going into January. But do I expect these two teams to make the playoffs? No. And even if they do make the playoffs, they're going to get knocked out in the wild card round because their teams are not as strong as other teams. Because you have other teams out there like Green Bay. I'm going to talk about them in a few minutes. You got Tampa Bay, which has won three of their last four. And you also have Philadelphia, who even though they have lost 4 of their last 5, they still at the 5th seed in the playoffs, in the playoff seeding. So Atlanta and Chicago, this is a good momentum builder for 2024, but y'all are not making the playoff. Neither one of these teams are making the playoffs. So that's all I got to say on that. The next game I want to talk about is the Las Vegas Raiders and Indianapolis Colts. Las Vegas put up a fight, and Indianapolis withstood that fight. Now, one thing about it, Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders, he almost had 300 yards. And the rushing game for the Las Vegas Raiders is really up to par. These guys have really improved with Antonio Pierce at the helm. Now, if you are Raiders ownership, everybody from Mark Davis to Tom Brady, everybody that's in the ownership group of the Raiders, you have your guy. Antonio Pierce is your guy. So, and I like what Antonio Pierce said after last week's game versus the Chiefs. He said that if I keep on winning, I'm gonna let the positioning in the facility take care of itself. Now, even though he lost a close one yesterday, I still think that he should get the head coaching position and have it. Now, as far as Indianapolis, they won yesterday, still have a chance at making the playoffs. They are in a 3-way tie with the Jaguars and the Houston Texans. This coming week, Indianapolis and Houston plays. So something's got to give in that game. And plus, the Jaguars play the Tennessee Titans. If the Jaguars win, they win the AFC South. So that's all I got for the Las Vegas and Indianapolis game. The next game I want to talk about is the Los Angeles Rams versus the New York Giants. Los Angeles, they've caught fire the last few weeks. After they after they lost to Dallas earlier in the season, they won seven of their last eight, and that all of the games that they have won have been by at least 3 points or more. So this game right here, I didn't expect much of a fight from the New York Giants, but the New York Giants put up a fight, so that's good for them. They could build on they could build momentum going in the next season. As far as the Rams, they still have a chance at making the playoffs miraculously, because I didn't think that they would be even I didn't think that they would be even in this position after that game they had versus my Dallas Cowboys. So some things have fell in their favor. They got a good winning streak going on. They won yesterday in a close one. That's the type of game that you need going into the playoffs. So that's all I got for the Los Angeles Rams and New York Giants game. The next game I want to talk about, the Arizona Cardinals and Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia fans, are y'all all right this morning? I mean, are y'all really all right? Y'all thought y'all had that game locked up, didn't you? Y'all thought since this was the second worst team in the NFL, they coming into Philadelphia, you're up 21-6. Y'all thought y'all had that locked up. Y'all was saying that it's gonna be a nice new year coming in and all that, and then all of a sudden, what happened? What happened? It was a tie ball game with under 2 minutes left, and Arizona went down the field and scored on y'all bums. As far as the defense, I'm talking to the defense. As far as y'all bums. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles defense, it's not a dominant defense. It hasn't been a dominant defense all season. I'm going to tell you how many yards that the defense gave up yesterday in Philadelphia. Philadelphia gave up over 232 passing yards to Kyler Murray, over 100 yards in the rushing game to James Conner, and the wide receiver, he had another 82 yards himself. And total offense, Arizona had over 350 yards of total offense. And even in the game, there was a 4-play sequence that I seen in that game where it was 1st and 20, QB run, 2nd and 15, screen, 3rd and 14, QB run, and then 4th down. I don't know what in the world you did on 4th down, but you ended up kicking the field goal. Nick Sirianni, if this is your play calling, if this is your offensive system, it is messed up. It is messed up because you got the players on the field confused as to what to do. You got your quarterback confused. You got Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, and the wide receivers and tight ends and offensive linemen. Everybody on that doggone field is confused, Nick Sirianni, as to what to do. And now all of a sudden, you have lost 4 of your last 5. You are no longer the number 1 team in the NFC. You have now credit, you gonna make the playoffs, but you are in danger of being knocked out of the playoffs in the first round. Now, I didn't expect y'all to lose yesterday, but hey, it helps out my Dallas Cowboys. So thank you, Arizona, for helping us out. Even though we lost to y'all early in the season, and I didn't know how we was going to make that game up, but we made that game up anyway. Arizona, I ain't got nothing bad to say about Arizona. They came through when they had to come through. Even though they're getting ready for 2024, they came through when they had to. They came through when they had to came through against this team. Now if Dallas wins next week, Dallas wins the division because we only needed the Eagles to lose at least one of their last 2 games, and now it's happened. So it's good times over here in Cowboy land. Now the next game I want to talk about is the New Orleans Saints and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game, I picked Tampa Bay to win this game, but Tampa Bay just came out with a dud. Now both of these teams are both 8-8. Next week, a lot of playoff implications are on the line. Whoever wins next week, and whichever team out of these two, the Saints and Buccaneers, win next week, will win the division. One of these teams are going to lose. Tampa Bay plays Carolina, and New Orleans plays Atlanta. So that's another video within itself. But kudos to New Orleans for winning this game. And I had picked New Orleans before the season started to win the division. So my prediction is still intact coming into the last week of the season. The next game I want to talk about is the San Francisco 49ers and Washington Commanders. San Francisco has locked up the number 1 seed. I'm not going to get into Washington too much because Josh Harris came out and said that they are going to move on from Ron Rivera. Who didn't predict that? I thought Ron Rivera, he should have been gone after last season. But I'm not the owner. Magic Johnson is completely on board with Josh Harris. Washington, it's going to be a complete overhaul there. San Francisco, you did what you had to do. Came out early in the game, pretty much had the lead throughout the entirety of this game, and you won this game. This really wasn't no game anyway, because after the first 5 minutes, San Francisco was up, and I'm like, San Francisco, they ain't gonna lose the lead today, and they didn't. So Purdy, he had a decent game, 230 passing yards. Brandon Ayuk missed the first down, as I like to call him, had over 100 yards. Y'all know, Brandon Ayuk, his stats are very unique this season because most of his catches go for first downs or they go for touchdowns. So this man is a offensive touchdown machine anytime he get the ball. So San Francisco, sky's the limit for y'all. Y'all got the number 1 seed. So that's all I got to say. Sky's the limit. So that's all I got for that game. The next game I want to talk about is the Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, C.J. Beathard, he had a decent game. ETN had over 100 yards. Jaguars, they really needed like a win like this. Very comfortable win. But Carolina's kicker was injured before the game started. So Carolina, that's the reason why they had 0 points. And that's the reason why they kept going for it on 4th down. Now, what I heard after the game, I heard that the Panthers owner, David Tepper, threw a drink at a Jaguar fan. Now, David Tepper, that don't look good. That don't look good for you. Cause you the owner of a sports franchise. Now, and I am prepared to see some punishment handed down from the NFL as far as David Tepper throwing a drink. So what? So what that from the looks of it in the video, I mean, there was no audio in the video, but the fan, he wasn't even saying anything to David Tepper. Now, I don't know if he said something earlier in the game because we don't have any video. Hopefully we look. Hopefully I look through another sports website and they have audio. And if they do have audio, I'll come back on here and tell y'all what that person said. But this is bad for football in general. This is bad for like ownership in football in general because everybody knows that the sports owners in the NFL, they have a certain type of image that they need to maintain. And what David Tepper did yesterday was totally out of the ordinary. I mean, you you down 26, ain't nothing going right, but you throw a drink on somebody that is totally out of the ordinary. Now let me tell you, David Tepper, he has had a tough history since he has bought the Carolina Panthers in 2018. I'm gonna tell y'all, in 2018, missed the playoffs. His head coach was Ron Rivera. 2019, missed the playoffs. His head coach was Ron Rivera. 2020, missed the playoffs. His head coach was Matt Rule. 2021, missed the playoffs. His head coach was Matt Rule. And 2022, his head coach missed the playoffs. His head coach was Matt Rule, and this year fired Frank Reich after a 1-10 start. So, David Tepper, you have no consistency in your organization, and that is what you've been trying to do. That's what you've been trying to do since you got the Panthers, trying to have some type of consistency. But you keep on saying that, oh, I want to win now. I want to win now. You done fired 4 damn coaches in 5 years. Damn, man. How you gonna have consistency like that? I don't see no consistency with Carolina. You got the quarterback Bryce Young. He out there running for his damn life, and you talking about consistency. Try and hire a head coach and let him run out his entire contract. Give him a 3-4 year contract. Tell him that the first 2 years I know is going to be some growing pains, but by year 3, I expect us to be in the playoffs. And that is what you haven't told none of your head coaches that you have hired. So that is a situation within itself. So I heard somebody, I heard a Panthers spokesperson come out. He didn't say anything about the video, but it's on video, and we seen what David Tepper did. Just completely disrespectful. But now on to the next game that I want to talk about. The Miami Dolphins and the Baltimore Ravens. Miami, this game showed me that y'all are not in the same class as Baltimore. Baltimore is on a whole different level. I mean, Baltimore, they came right out in the game. They put up 28 in the first half. They put up 28 in the second half. They basically dominated. They dominated the Dolphins from start to finish. The first play of the game was a touchdown for the Ravens, and I seen that game. And the Dolphins couldn't generate no pressure. Miami, they not making it past. They're not making it to the Super Bowl if they have to face Baltimore. Because from what I seen from Baltimore yesterday, it's like everybody's got they won yesterday, and the number 1 seed, they got all of that. Everybody's got to come through them through the AFC. Baltimore is just far and away from everybody else in the AFC. I've seen that. For Baltimore's offense to be so efficient against one of the top teams in the NFL is excellent. Even though they played the 49ers last week, their offense was efficient. They played the Dolphins yesterday. Their offense was efficient. Baltimore, sky's the limit. Next time Baltimore will have to leave. Next time Baltimore will have another road game is if they make it all the way to the Super Bowl. So congratulations on Baltimore eclipsing the number one seed in the AFC. Miami, you are currently the number 3 seed, but with the game that's coming up with you and Buffalo, the division AFC East is still up for grabs. So you got a meaningful game coming up this upcoming week. That's all I got for the Miami Dolphins and Baltimore Ravens game. The next game I want to talk about is the Tennessee Titans and Houston Texans. Houston, they won in a 3-way tie with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts. Now here's the scenario coming into this week. Indianapolis and Houston plays each other. If the Jaguars win their game versus Tennessee, then the Jaguars win the division outright. Now, here's another scenario. If Indianapolis and Houston both tie in this game, which is it's a 2% chance of them. It's a 2% chance of that game ending up in a tie. But hypothetically, if Indianapolis and Houston, if that game ends up in a tie, then the scenario falls into the Jaguars' favor, even if they lose, because the Jaguars will have the better division record, and the Jaguars would have a game and a half lead in the division. So either way, Jaguars will win that division. But now back to Houston. Houston did what they had to do. Tennessee, I'm not gonna get into them much because Will Levis he got injured in the first quarter. So and Ryan Tannehill, he came in. It's been a flip flop with the quarterback position in Tennessee. One game is Will Levis, the next game is Ryan Tannehill, and it's back and forth. So that's all I got for Tennessee. Houston, you did what you had to do. Now you still have a chance at making the playoffs. Hopefully you do make the playoffs. You might get in. Houston, they might get in by default, even though if the Jaguars win and Houston win, both of them get in because Jaguars will have the better division record at 5-1, and Houston, they'll get in that last playoff spot, knocking the Colts out. So both of them teams, they can still make it. Houston, they can still make it. They had a good game yesterday. That's all I got for the Tennessee-Houston game. The next game I want to talk about is Pittsburgh and the Seattle Seahawks. Pittsburgh, they came into Seattle and won. Now, everybody was picking Seattle to win this game. Even me, I was picking Seattle because I don't know what I'm going to see from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Now, one thing I want to say is I've heard the stories and rumors about Pittsburgh wanting to fire Mike Tomlin. But I just want to say that what Mike Tomlin has done, not having a losing record at all in his coaching career, you don't hear that from a coach's resume. Yes, I know that Pittsburgh has had offensive struggles throughout the entirety of this season, but Pittsburgh's still winning games. Pittsburgh, they still have a chance at making the playoffs. Mike Tomlin, he hasn't had a losing season in the past since he started. Since he started in 2000 since he started in 2007 up until now, there has never been a losing season. The bad seasons that he has had, they've always ended up in 500 records. So if you Pittsburgh, keep Mike Tomlin, because you are gonna have a tough time hiring somebody to fill Mike Tomlin's shoes. He one of the winningest coaches in NFL history. Hey, I'm just saying, why fix what ain't broken? So Pittsburgh, stay with Mike Tomlin, please, because we do not need another coach, another team, another NFL team in this coaching carousel coming into the offseason. That's all I got to say about Pittsburgh. Now with Seattle, you 8-8. You 8-8. Still have positioning for a playoff spot. You need to win this coming week, and you need 4 teams to lose, and I don't see those 4 teams losing. So Seattle, your playoff chances are hanging by a thread, and when I let the thread go, that's it. Look at it. That's it. Your playoff chances are done. The next game I want to talk about is the Los Angeles Chargers and Denver Broncos. The Los Angeles Chargers, y'all already know how I feel about them. They pretty much, everybody's on that team is pretty much clocked out. Kellen Moore, thank you to the Chargers. I'm happy that my Dallas Cowboys got rid of Kellen Moore, because he always wanted to throw the ball and he never wanted to run it. And that is why Dak Prescott was throwing all those interceptions last season. But back to this game. Now, the Denver Broncos, throughout this past week, I've heard that they benching Russell Wilson to save some money on the cap. If they release him before the March 11th deadline, they'll have to pay him $37 million. If they release him on June 1st, they'll have to pay him close to $40 million. So it's like, and need I remind everybody that 5-year, $250 million contract, that doesn't even start until next season. So that the Denver Broncos are caught in between a rock and a hard place. And I know nobody else in the NFL wants to take on that kind of contract. You've never heard of a contract being that steep as far as money-wise. So I think it's best for Denver just to keep Russell Wilson. Now, I said at the start of the season that Sean Payton's offensive system wouldn't work with Russell Wilson, because Sean Payton's offensive system, he wants 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, and a running back in the backfield. Sean Payton is a guy that likes to throw the ball a lot. And with Russell Wilson, he is a quarterback that likes to be in shotgun most of the time. And you saw that throughout the entirety of the season. He's always in shotgun. Now, that is a conflict within itself. And all that the Denver Broncos have endured throughout this season, that's a whole nother story. But the fact that coming into this game, they only had a 1.4% chance at making the playoffs. I don't know if their percentage points has gone up since last night's game. I think it should, but I don't think that they ain't gonna make too much noise in the playoffs. Excuse me. They ain't gonna make too much noise in the playoffs because there are better teams than Denver that are making the playoffs in the AFC. That's all I got for that game. The next game I want to talk about, this was probably one of the biggest games of the week, and Kansas City protected home. I seen I seen Patrick Mahomes. He had a decent game. Their running back Isaiah Pacheco had over 100 yards rushing. He has been one of their bright spots in the run game, and plus the wide receiver that I always talk about for the Chiefs, Rashee Rice. He had a good game too. He is about the only wide receiver that has that's been catching the ball lately because like I said, now this is no shade. Travis Kelce, he has been in a slump. I don't know if they're not calling many plays for him now, but he usually gets 100 yards every game receiving. Travis Kelce, I believe he's been out of the limelight. I don't want to say because it's Taylor Swift, but we all know that Taylor was at the game yesterday, and Taylor gonna be at the games in the playoffs. So they have this is what I think, and I said this earlier in the season to Kansas City Chief fans and Travis Kelce. This is a great PR move for you, cause Taylor Swift, one of the queens when it comes to singing, and Travis Kelce, one of the top tight ends when it comes to the NFL. So this right here is great for y'all. But let me get back to the game. Kansas City, they won and they in the playoffs, so that they clinched it. This is the 10th season that they have clinched their division by winning at least 10 games. Plus that ties for the third streak, third current streak in the NFL. So Kansas City, you'll have to go on the road. You might have a chance on the road. But from what I seen yesterday, I seen a team where it was like they just buckled up their chin strap, and this was a gotta have it game in my book as far as Kansas City. Kansas City, if you would have lost this game, it wouldn't have been too good. It wouldn't have looked too good. But you won this game. Now Cincinnati, you are out of the playoffs. Now me, you wasn't gonna get very far in the playoffs with Jake Browning as your quarterback, no way. So in a way, Kansas City did y'all a favor because y'all probably would have had to play Cincinnati in the first round of playoffs if Kansas City lost the game. But Kansas City won. The offense was decent enough, did just enough to win this game. Now, after next week, it's playoff time, and that's a different type of animal with you being in the playoffs. That's all I got for that game. The last game of the week was last night, just before the ball dropped. The Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. These two teams, well, yeah, these two teams came in with the same record. Green Bay now is in a winning end situation, but I gotta say something about Jordan Love and Aaron Jones. Jordan Love had over 250 yards passing, and Aaron Jones had over 100 yards rushing, and their wide receiver Bo Melton had over 100 yards receiving. This game was a blowout in my book. I mean, I didn't watch too much of that game because I was watching a New Year's Eve party in New York. But after I seen the score when it was 30-3, I said I'm like it's good that I didn't put too much stock in that game because Minnesota, it's been a revolving door at quarterback all season for them. Green Bay, they were down in the dumps in the middle of the season. They won versus Detroit on Thanksgiving. Now they have a chance at a win and end scenario coming into, well, this upcoming week. Green Bay, this is a good story and this is just a story in itself. To come back from 2-6 to the last game of the season and have a chance for a win and end scenario, Matt LaFleur, I gotta give you props to your coaching. Matt LaFleur, his record in December is 17 and 1. He don't lose much in December. That's when you want your team to be hot. And Green Bay, they have been hot for the last 2 or 3 weeks. They have a chance at making the playoffs next week, and I think that they'll win their game next week. I don't know who they play, but I'll get back to y'all later on this week about who they play. And with that, those are my reactions for week 17 of the NFL season. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and remember, the key is always on time. Have a prosperous 2024.